How's it going, YouTube? Yeah, Pat Mac here, bringing you another competitive Pokemon guide for Grafaiai, which is new to Scarlet and Violet. Let's go and take a look at this Pokemon here. So first off, it is a Poison and Normal type, which is pretty solid defensive typing together. Poison is in general pretty good defensively, and so is Normal with having that immunity. This Pokemon is only weak to ground moves and psychic moves, which makes it pretty solid with a couple of different resistances and immunities. It also has three very good abilities. Unburden allows us to get a double on our speed boost if we lose our item. Poison Touch allows us to have a 30% chance of poisoning a Pokemon if we are using a contact move. And Prankster gives our status moves a additional priority, except if we try to use it on a dark type, and then it would fail. As far as stats go for this Pokemon, its big selling point is its speed at 110. It's faster than a ton of Pokemon that are in the game, as well as it is a little bit slower than some, but in general it's pretty quick. It also has some pretty good offensive stats, 95 and 80. They're not super good, but they're alright. So they give us a little bit of damage output, and they'll be very useful for one of the sets that we talk about later on. As far as its defensive stats go in terms of HP, defense, and special defense, it leaves a little bit to be desired. 63, 65, and 72 are not amazing, but they're doable for the job that you want Grafaiai to do on your team. As far as what you want Grafaiai to do on your team, let's go and take a look at some characteristics in terms of teams. So in terms of singles, it's more likely to serve as a sweeper or a pivot. As far as VGC goes, it has some good consistency. Prankster is a very good ability and gives a lot of good options for support Pokemon, which this is mostly what Grafaiai is going to be, I think, in terms of VGC. It has a signature move that we'll talk about when we look at that set, and it makes it a very good support Pokemon. Anyway, let's talk about that first set. So this is a double support set. Of course, uses the ability Prankster, which is amazing. In VGC, being able to act first before your opponents it's very important. It has Covert Cloak here that stops the additional side effects and moves, so like being able to flinch from Fake Out. We can dodge that using that Covert Cloak. Knockoff is there for some utility, just to kind of scout items, especially if you're in a best of 3. And then Parting Shot, Doodle, and Encore are all affected by Prankster. And then it's mostly looking at a high speed set for this, so that we can make sure that we get our Prankster abilities to happen first. So Doodle might not be a move that you're familiar with. This is a new move that is in Scarlet and Violet, and it is the signature move of Grafaiai. What Doodle does try saying that 5 times fast. Anyway, what Doodle does is it copies the ability of an opponent that you choose. Both the Grafaiai and the ally would get the new ability. This is particularly useful for some Pokemon that have abilities that only trigger one time or that are deficits in some way, and we'll talk more about that when we look at some of our partners here. Encore I have as another option here. You can force Pokemon to stay on Protect, so encoring a Pokemon into Protect is amazing, or encoring them into some kind of speed control move like Trick Room or Tailwind. So having those as an option is very nice. The set that you can see on the screen in front of you here that I'm playing the game in, I don't have Encore on that set. I have Sunny Day on that set instead. This Pokemon also has Prankster Sunny Day and Prankster Rain Dance, which would be amazing for weather teams. And then I also had Knockoff on this set, but Foul Play is a good option as well. Being able to use a opponent's attack stat against them gives us a little bit more damage output, especially on a support kind of set. As far as single sets, the first one I have for you is a sweeper set using Unburden and Psychic Seed. This would mostly be paired with an Indeedee of some kind, since that's the main terrain setter that's in the game. And then having Swords Dance to get us that extra damage boost with 3 pretty strong attacking abilities between Gunk Shot, Acrobatics, and Terra Blast. And Adamant Nature gives us a strong attack stat while giving us a ton of speed from having Unburden. As far as Terra Blast, I want to talk about that move for a moment. On Grafaiai, if we don't Terrastalize, then Terra Blast is a stab move, so it does give us that 50% damage boost. And when we decide to Terrastalize into something, then of course we get that extra stab boost on our Terra Blast as well. As far as Terrastalizing types go, for Grafaiai, I would recommend something that hits steel types. So ground, fighting, or fire. I think one of those 3 are probably going to be the main type that we'd want to use for Grafaiai. And I think at that point you can kind of take your pick about what the rest of your team has and what it's not able to cover for. So I think one of those three is the main option that you'd want to use for Grafaiai here. But we get a lot of good damage off, especially Acrobatics being a 110 base power move, and then Gunk Shot being a super high base damage move as well. This Pokemon can put in a ton of damage, especially after Swords Dance. And then I have two more sets for you. Both of them are going to be pivot sets. So this one uses Prankster Parting Shot as the main selling point for this set. We have a very high special defense, along with being fully invested in it, especially our nature going into it as well. And Knockoff and Super Fang are there to give some utility. Super Fang being able to kind of wear down some of their walls or some of the Pokemon that we want to switch in on, and Knockoff to get rid of items. Taunt or Encore, any of those kind of moves are going to be really nice here. If you are bringing this on a singles weather team, then having like a Prankster Rain Dance or a Prankster Sunny Day could be an option on this kind of set as well. And then we can Parting Shot the opposing Pokemon to bring in our threat, while the Pokemon that we used it on has lower offensive stats. So that's the main selling point for this one, is being able to Prankster Parting Shot into things. The main selling point for the next one, however, is Poison Touch. So this set has 4 attacking moves and Assault Vest, and all of them make contact. So all 4 of these contact moves have a chance of poisoning the opposing Pokemon. Very, very nice to be able to wear down walls in particular. If we can Super Fang a Slow King, for example, we can continuously wear them down by getting some Poison Chip on them, as well as that Super Fang dealing 50% of their HP. And then of course Knockoff is nice for getting rid of items, U-Turn is nice for getting some pivot, and then Poison Jab is some stab with the extra chance of poisoning, 30% for Poison Jab and an extra 30% for Poison Touch. So really, really nice to be able to deal a solid amount of damage for a set that is essentially here to kind of pivot and get in and then to safely get into our next threat. So as far as partners go for this Pokemon, in singles, if you're using the sweeping set that has Psychic Seed, then of course you're going to want to have an NDD. NDD male is going to be the better one for singles, so that's a nice option for this, as well as being nicely to resist the Psychic type attack, so it could come in on Grafaiai. Very, very nice Pokemon to have. The other two Pokemon that I have here, Low Kicks and Mismagius, resist both of Grafaiai's weaknesses, so ground and psychic. Well, let me back that up. Mismagius doesn't resist it, but it does hit psychic types for super effective damage because it's a ghost type. But Low Kicks does resist to ground because it's a bug, and it is immune to psychic because it's a dark type. So having that as a nice switch in for Pokemon that are trying to hit Grafaiai for super effective damage, both of these Pokemon would be nice options between Mismagius and Low Kicks. And they can help to break open the game and to pivot into some of those Pokemon, especially because Mismagius and Low Kicks can both be threats, and honestly NDD can be a pretty solid threat as well. As far as VGC goes, I have Regigigas on here. The Pokemon's not in Scarlet and Violet at the moment. If it does become available in Scarlet and Violet at some time in the future, then Doodle will be able to get rid of Slow Start, and then Slacking is in the game right now, and Doodle can get rid of Truant. So those are the main selling points for the VGC pairings. Again, I want to point out that weather Pokemon would be solid for this too, so things that have Chlorophyll or things that have Swift Swim would also be great partners for Grafaiai, since we can use that Prankster ability to set weather to allow those Pokemon to put in a ton of extra work for us. As far as this Pokemon goes, I think it has a ton of really cool options. I've mentioned 4 of them here, but there are a lot of different options that this Pokemon has, and these are just a couple of them. I encourage you to play around with sets and try things out and see what you can put together for Grafaiai. I think it has a lot of really cool options on this Pokemon. And which set are you most excited about? I personally am excited for the double set. I think being able to doodle a new ability onto Slacking or Regigigas or onto an Intimidate Pokemon that, Intimidate, once you bring it in, you're not doing anything anymore. So I think being able to use Doodle for that ability to give our Intimidate Pokemon a new ability while they're on the battlefield sounds so cool. So I'm really excited for that kind of set for Grafaiai. But yeah, let me know which set you're excited about. And of course, if you'd like to see some more content, or if you have ideas for what Pokemon you'd like to see competitive guides for, definitely leave a comment to let me know. and I can make those guides for those Pokemon as well. Anyway, if you'd like to see some more of our content, definitely stick around, like, subscribe, and all that stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one.